Hey folks, this is your host, the one, the only, Thrifty Gamer 83 here. What is it about JRPGs, Japanese role-playing games, that can mean so much to the core? What is it about games that can have you either going on one of the biggest mystical quests, or simply a game like Parasite Eve, which takes great pleasure in terrifying you? The Japanese action role-playing games, as well as traditional role-playing games, have that aspect within them that they can frighten us as well as serve up a great party-based atmosphere. Phantasy Star III, Phantasy Star IV, Phantasy Star II, those are among my favorite games. Those are the games I grew up playing. Parasite Eve is something else entirely. I was set for it to be more of a Resident Evil themed role-playing game, and it didn't have the ink ribbon system, but what it did have was actually something that worked better. And that was that you had to call in and save. I just couldn't find a better Japanese action role-playing game than Parasite Eve to have in a retro collection, because it's perfectly balanced. The difficulty, the enemies, there is a steep learning curve that you do have to take advantage with Parasite Eve. With Phantasy Star, it's all about the grind, the grind, the grind. Once you finish grinding, and in Phantasy Star IV, as I found out, once you finish grinding, that's it. There's no real side quests to speak of other than what you get handed by the guild. I kind of felt let down by the ending of Phantasy Star IV, to be honest, but that's another story. The game itself is completely awesome. It innovated a lot of what has become standard for role-playing games. My biggest pet peeve with some games was not having the talk function and getting absolutely completely lost, because I would go from Phantasy Star to Final Fantasy and just be lost in the shuffle. What happened? What? I haven't played this game for a week, but I'm kind of lost in Final Fantasy, so I'll go to Phantasy Star, I'll use the talk function, and I will be able to get myself on the right path. Phantasy Star 2 and 3 bugged the crap out of me for doing that. There was no talk function. Sega was masterful in putting in that function and bringing it to the table, honestly. Sometimes I still feel lost when I play Final Fantasy VII, and that can be Final Fantasy 9, 7, 8, you get lost sometimes, and it's always just good if they had a talk function. You could get right back on track. To me, when I look at Parasite Eve, as linear as the construction story is to the game, I'm also deeply immersed in how much grinding you can do with a character. And you can unlock new abilities as you level up, you get bonus points to put into weapons. It's really innovative for that day and age. 1997, 1998, I got the game for Christmas one year for the original PlayStation, and ever since that game has just sucked me right back into the world of Parasite Eve. Into the world, I'm really not knowing if I'm saying the name correctly, into the world of Aya Brie, and you just get that feeling. It's immersive. You're easily terrified, but you're also easily amused by what happens. And the grinding doesn't really feel like a chore as it does with Phantasy Star II. The grinding feels like a natural progression, like you're just trying to amplify yourself to face Eve and her many creations. I really, really loved the storytelling of Parasite Eve. And I really love that talk function. Phantasy Star IV. That was perfect. That was what games were meant to have to get back on track. If you're taking on side quests, then it's a good idea to have the talk function just so you can get back to the main quest after you're done grinding up and be able to kick some arse. That's how I love a JRPG that's built well, that can stand the test of time. Phantasy Star 2 and 3 took it to a whole nother level. Phantasy Star 4 was the pinnacle of the series. I know I can go on and on and on about the talk function, but yeah, it's that important and centralized to any good role-playing game now. And I think a large reason why they build the subquests and main quests into menu options is to keep you on track. Alright folks, rant, rave, love, hate. I've had fun creating this video. Have a good one.